Hello, Fish Faithful. This is Marlins Daily on the Fan Arch Network. I am Kurt Semder, and what a win for the Marlins. They're second in a row, and they are back to 500 after shutting out the Phillies last night. A huge win for the team. Great pitching performance by Sandy Alcantara, and the team got it done. A 1-0 win over the Phillies, and once again, this team stepping in the right direction, getting out of the shadows of that 12-game losing streak. They didn't give Sandy a lot to work with, but he made it stand up, and the bullpen did their job. So Marlins get 2 wins in a row, back to 500, back within striking distance, I feel like, for that third wild card spot. And, we said this homestand was going to be big, and they lost the first 3 games to the Padres. They have a chance now to at least go 3-3 through these games with San Diego and Philly. And in this game, we mentioned they only got the 1 run. Kyle Stowers continues to be an X factor, as we've mentioned, for this lineup. He gets it done with a first-inning home run that just barely got over the wall, but just barely is the key words for this game because the Marlins just barely got the win, and that's what they needed. Like we mentioned, Sandy was sensational in this game, 7 shutout innings. Only gave up 4 hits, 5 strikeouts, was really in control for most of this game, and gave the team exactly what they wanted and exactly what they needed at a time they needed it the most. Got some good defense behind him. Jacob Marcy with a highlight grab in center field, crashing into the wall. Great job by him. If he can't get it done at the plate, at least he's contributing out there defensively, so that's good to see. And the bullpen. The bullpen got it done too. Calvin Fauché, once again, big 8th inning for him, getting the hold. And hey, how about a stress-free 1-2-3 innings from Pete Fairbanks, 2 strikeouts there in the 9th to shut the Phillies down. And yes, Kyle Schwarber was out with an illness, but this is still a lineup that usually has no problems putting up runs. And the Phillies have been struggling since the All-Star break, but you got to get these games, and the Marlins got it done. And like I said, back to 500. Right in the mix for the wild card, as we mentioned before. The question is now, how much in the mix does this front office feel they are? We are less than a week away now from the trade deadline. A lot of things heating up right now. And you look at this team, and we've been talking a lot about what they could do. There's a lot of different directions. I think a lot of teams around the league are wondering what the Marlins exactly are going to do because they have a lot of players that are attractive as possible trade candidates for them to add to their team. But at the same token, the Marlins are in a position where they could add smaller pieces. So we've heard the reports, just a week or so ago, it was the team is going to be buyers. And then earlier in the week, it was, no, they're not. So, just like the teams play, the reports and everything go back and forth. And I think we're just going to have to wait and see how this plays out over the next 5 or 6 days to see what the team actually does and in what direction they decide they're going to go in. But this team, we said it yesterday, more reminiscent the last 2 days of the Marlins that we saw in June than the team we saw during the 12-game losing streak. And, a big walk-off win like they had on Monday could just be what they needed to reset things and get them back on track. And, after the Phillies, the Mets are in town, could get a couple of wins and get healthy off of them. We'll see how this plays out. We'll see how this goes for the Marlins because there's a lot of baseball still left to be played, and there's a lot of big decisions that have to be made. And, we're going to be talking a lot about the trade deadline because there's still a lot of things to happen, and it seems like there's new news and new reporting every day. The latest, of course, being regarding Sandy Alcantara, whose name comes up almost every day in trade rumors, and as it should. And I don't believe the Sandy should be traded, and I don't think that the Marlins are going to trade him. I think that he is crucial to what the Marlins are trying to put together and try to do here, not just this season, but next season as well. And, the thing about it is, though, you have to identify the trade market and see how things look. And right now, when you look at the starting pitchers that are going to be available as of right now, with maybe one big exception being Tariq Skubal if the Tigers make him available, Sandy would be the top of the market right now, pretty much right there. And a start like he had last night proves it. And I think, if nothing else, maybe last night's start doesn't necessarily move the needle for the Marlins, but I think some of the other teams out there that are looking for starting pitching are going to look at a start like that and perhaps increase an offer that they may have made for him, or at least be a little bit more aggressive in trying to convince Peter Bendix to pull the trigger on a deal. You know, he leads baseball in innings pitched. He leads baseball in quality starts. And he shut down a Phillies lineup that is a widely regarded around baseball as going to be a playoff team. And if you're a GM of a contending team and you're looking to add a pitcher, you want to add somebody who can do just that, who can shut down one of these lineups, not just in a playoff run, but in a playoff series. You know, looking at some of the guys who are available right now that we've seen, you know, Freddie Peralta hasn't done that this season with the Mets. Robbie Ray hasn't done that with the Giants. Angel starters, you know, Jose Soriano hasn't done that since the start of the season. There are a lot of guys out there who have been mentioned as possible trade, you know, candidates, but no one has put forth an effort like Sandy did last night against a contending team in quite some time. And I think that made a lot of owners stand up and a lot of GMs stand up and take notice. And I would expect the offers that are made for him to go up. And the Marlins will at least have to listen. But I don't feel like they should trade him. I don't think that it's the right way to go. And whatever the front office decides to do, I just hope that it's a consistent decision across the board. And what I mean by that is, don't keep Sandy and then trade someone like Otto Lopez. You know what I'm saying? You know, ESPN's Buster Olney said just yesterday, kind of confirming some of the reports we had heard the day before, that teams like the Red Sox specifically had called to check in on the availability of Otto, which makes sense. They need an infield bat. They need somebody like him in their lineup, especially atop their lineup, and maybe they're going to come up with a big trade package for him, especially considering that he is young and under control for several years. But don't do one and not do the other. Do both or do neither. You know, go for it or don't. Don't play that middle ground, because that's where things can get a little dicey. And I don't think they're going to do that. I think what we're going to end up seeing is more like what we've been hearing lately, meaning that you probably will see some smaller trades. You'll probably see the bullpen lose a couple of guys. Most notably, Pete Fairbanks makes a lot of sense to be traded, and I think he will be. And a performance anyway, like last night, can only help his value and help his potential trade return from one of these other teams. But Sandy's got to be just taken off the block at this point, because I just don't think that it makes a lot of sense for them to move him. And yes, they can get blown away, and yes, they get an offer they can't say no to. But right now, I would say don't actively shop him. Just take the calls and listen and see what happens. Because right now, I don't think the Marlins are actively shopping too many of their guys. And, you know, one of the guys who we've heard talked about lately was Liam Hicks. And Liam Hicks's trade market seems to be heating up. He's a name that we mentioned here on Marlins Daily more than a week ago as a potential trade candidate. And now we're starting to see some more smoke about that around the league. You know, Hicks is a guy who has really stepped up this season, a Rule 5 pickup, somebody who, you know, has stepped in and really played well, leads the team in RBIs, and has just been very successful playing a number of positions: catcher, first base, DH. Had a small injury there in the middle of the season, but he's come back and he's been fine. But again, you got to look at the trade market. And right now, catcher is in demand. And there are a lot of teams who would look at a guy like Liam Hicks and say he could be our starting catcher down the stretch and in the playoffs. Mark Feinstein of MLB.com talked about just some of the teams that could be interested. You know, we talk about the Yankees, the Red Sox, Tampa Bay, Chicago, the White Sox, Texas, even the Dodgers. You know, you're talking about 6 teams there who could be interested in a catcher and could make you an offer for a guy like Hicks, who, let's be fair about it, he's been very good for this lineup, and losing him would hurt, but not necessarily hurt as much as some of the other guys, considering that you have Joe Mack playing well at catcher and you feel like he may be your catcher of the future. You have Kyle Stowers stepping up and playing well over at first base. And you have Agustin Ramirez pretty much ready to come back up and be a backup at either of those spots or even fill in on DH on some days and get his bat into the lineup. So you can replace someone like Hicks if you have to. And Hicks is the kind of guy, when you're looking at a position like catcher that is in such high demand, he could bring you back a middle of the rotation starter or an up and coming pitching prospect who can help you this season. He could bring you back a right-handed bat at a position of need that could help you this season. He's the kind of guy who, if you don't want to part with someone like a Griffin Conine, who could get you something back that can help you almost immediately. And I think he might be on the move. We're only seeing more and more momentum about it. And you know what? That would be a good move. I think that would be a strong move for the Marlins here to get what they need to stay competitive this year, to make a run this year, and going forward, maybe add a piece somewhere along the way, whether it be pitching or in the lineup, that's going to help them in a big way because they have depth at catcher. They have some depth at first base DH. And of all the guys that we've mentioned over there, you know, you're not going to trade Mack. You're not going to trade Stowers. Ramirez doesn't have a ton of value right now. Hicks is your best bet to go out there and get something. And, you know, this is part of what happens. You have a great season or you're having a very good season, something unexpected. He can get you something back in return. So, you know, I think Peter Bendix might want to keep might want to not necessarily aggressively shop him, but I think he should be listening more than he would have about a week ago when it comes to potential trades for Liam Hicks. So where do we stand with this team right now? Well, I mean, they're going for a sweep this afternoon. This is a game that would have been started by Max Meyer if he wasn't hurt. Instead, the Marlins are going to go with a bullpen game, it looks like. Ryan Gusto will pitch a bulk of the innings once again. You'd love to see you'd love to have a top starter going in this one. You're taking on Jesus Luzardo, an all-star who's been really good, but the Phillies lineup is struggling right now. Might be able to take advantage of them, might be able to steal this one, and might be able to get a sweep of the Phillies at home, which was absolutely unheard of, and you couldn't think it was even a possibility just a couple days ago when this team was losing a franchise worst 12 straight games. But that's baseball. That's how it goes. Everything can change with just a couple of days, and you're only as good as your last starting pitcher, as they say, and the Marlins starting pitcher yesterday was really good. So they're in a good position here, looking to get the win, to move back over 500 and keep pace with some of these teams in the wild card race, which is only getting tighter and only heating up in the National League. And again, more and more trade news coming out each and every day. With this afternoon game today, I'm sure there'll be more news for us to chat about tomorrow right here on Marlins Daily as we break down what's going on, as we just have only a couple of days left until the deadline. We'll see what happens with the game. We'll see what happens with the news and notes, and we'll see what happens with the potential trade rumors. All that and more coming up tomorrow right here on Marlins Daily. I will see you then.